The San Antonio Spurs committed absolute robbery in acquiring De'Aaron Fox. They didn't have to trade any of their key pieces, none of their top-end draft picks like the Atlanta pick, anything. Still can't believe they got De'Aaron Fox for essentially nothing, right? Like Trey Jones and Zach Collins, who they've been wanting to get rid of anyway. I mean, talk about a fleece. But the big question now becomes, what do they do with Chris Paul? Now, in concept, right, you just replace Chris Paul in the starting lineup with De'Aaron Fox. And then you replace Trey Jones in the reserve lineup with Chris Paul, right? And Chris Paul as like your backup guard would be great. But here's the thing. Chris Paul signed with the Spurs because he was going to start and he was going to get the minutes. Obviously, he knew he was coming in to be a mentor and, kind of help this young team. But he said himself in a press conference, he went to the Spurs to be an actual productive member and get as many minutes as possible, because he could have went to a contending team, he could have went to several other teams and just rode the bench or came off the bench and played 15 minutes a game. No, he wanted to play as many minutes possible because he loves the game. Well, how many minutes are you going to be able to get him with De'Aaron Fox? You got to imagine De'Aaron Fox is going to be playing 30 plus minutes. You have Stephon Castle, right? Yes, Chris Paul is going to play some. You could probably get him, at least 15 to 20 minutes. You look at like Trey Jones, right? Well, how many minutes was Trey Jones getting? He was getting 16 minutes a game. So again, is Chris Paul going to be happy with, 16 to 20 minutes a night? How much can you play Chris Paul and De'Aaron Fox together? That's a real question, right? Because Chris Paul is best as your point guard with the ball in his hands. Guess what De'Aaron Fox is? Best as your point guard with the ball in his hands. Neither guy is super great playing off ball, right? So that's the problem. That's the dilemma. Do they do right by Chris Paul if he wants out and just waive him and then just bring in a serviceable backup? Do they look to maybe trade him? But how many teams are trading for him in his $10 million, right? And what kind of return would you get? Or do they just keep him? Can they figure out what Chris Paul wants? Just be like, hey, we'd love to keep you here. We'll try to get you as many minutes as possible, right? I do think Chris Paul still makes a world of sense for the Spurs to continue to develop, just be that guy, that trusted vet in the locker room and obviously on the basketball court, especially as you try to make a push for the playoffs. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think the Spurs should do with Chris Paul? I think ultimately it'll come down to, what does Chris Paul want, right? If Chris Paul's like, you know what, hey guys, get me out of here, I think they'll get rid of him. If he's like, hey, you know what, I get it, right? Because he's not foolish. He knows, like, dude, you guys just got your franchise point guard, right? Like, I'm sure Chris Paul isn't all like heard about it or nothing, right? So again, this isn't prime Chris Paul. He's 40 or 39, whatever, right? Like, so anyway, again, let me know down in the comments. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out my YouTube, link in the bio.